Hello, my friends, and welcome to the first episode of the live episode of the All Walks of Life with Mr. Aku podcast. I am your host, Mr. Aku. And on this first live episode, or I should say, taped episode, I will be going over grief and how grief affects us all. And as everybody knows, there's five stages of grief. There is denial, anger, acceptance, trying to figure things out mentally in your head on how I could have done things differently, all that other stuff, and acceptance. Um, as some may know, I lost my good friend in October of last year, and it's been really tough for me to pretty much go through life without knowing I can't pick up the phone and call him, send him stupid texts, send him stupid memes. Um, it's been hard. Um, when I got that phone call early in the morning, the day after he passed, it felt like a heavy weight was just dropped on me. You know, uh, Kind of like using this analogy. If you ever saw a Goofy short, I see Goofy's in the background. Um, a Goofy animated short, when he tried to pick up a heavy weight, he would just fall down. Um, that was kind of like me that morning. Um, it felt surreal. It felt like I was living in a dream, and that it wasn't true. Um, I couldn't believe it. Um, I still can't believe it. I've been walking through life ever since it's happened with the idea that I just pick up the phone and call him. Um, I considered him one of my best friends, if not my best friend. Um, I felt like um, I felt like everything was a haze. Um, that morning when I got the call, it was very hard, very difficult. Um, and I feel like now, me personally, out of all five stages of grief, I'm in the first three: denial, anger, and trying to figure things out, in my head. Could I have prevented it? Could I have been there to help his fiance? Could I have, you know, could I have done things different? Um, Sometimes I feel that way. Um, I still feel that way. I was raised Catholic, and for the longest time, I stopped going to actual church. Um, I we go to church on the two major holidays, Christmas and Easter. But I wasn't going like I used to. Um, I used to go every Sunday. I was a Sunday kid. I went to church with my mom every Sunday. And then I essentially started reading and started hearing, started seeing what was transpiring in the church. And I didn't necessarily lose faith. Um, excuse me. But I was angry. I was disappointed. I was like, how can we as Catholics be okay with this stuff going on? And I was looking at it as no one's in jail, no one's got arrested. What about the victims? And when my friend passed away in October, I thought to myself, I needed to, I wouldn't necessarily say that I lost my faith, like I said earlier. I wouldn't necessarily say that I needed to find God again, but I felt like I needed I needed to talk to someone. Um, and my youngest daughter, who just graduated middle school, um, she was in this club for lunch that one of her teachers was doing. It was like kind of like a Bible study group. Um, and the teacher is really good friends with my wife. She went to, they both went to elementary school, middle school, part of high school together. Um, and so he was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing something on Fridays. You guys should come. And I feel like it might have been my friend um, putting out there in the universe to get me to go back and understand that, as that Bob Marley song would go, everything's going to be all right. Um, so we went on Friday, a Friday, and there was just something that drew me there. And I said, I'm going to keep coming. And we've gone ever since. And I've gotten back into church and understanding the Bible more. I'm understanding the teachings more. And I feel like it's helping me a lot. Um, Sometimes I have my good days. Sometimes I have my bad days. Sometimes I don't question God, but I question myself. And I say, could I have been there? Could I have done something different? The night he passed away, it was a Friday. So the night he passed away, I was actually going to ask him if him and his fiance wanted to go to dinner with us, myself, my wife, and my kids. But I didn't because I had a feeling he was going to say, nah, maybe next time. Because it was late. And as you get older, you don't want to go out. You want to stay at home. Um, so I didn't ask him, you know. And I said to myself, okay, next Friday I'm going to ask him, or tomorrow I'm going to ask him if he wants to go out to eat dinner. And then we could just chill, hang out, have some laughs like we used to, right? Um, Come to find out, he had passed away while we were having dinner. Um, and this is where they trying to be rational thing comes into play. Thought to myself, if I would have asked him to go to dinner, would it have happened? If I would have asked him to go to dinner, I would have been able to help his fiance. If I asked him to go to dinner, would it have actually happened that night? Um, and it's kind of hard because you think about it, you process it in your head, and people tell you, oh, there's nothing you could have done. It happened. But then you try to rational. You try to be rational about things. You try to say, hey, could I have done, could I have helped out? Um, and I think back at the last phone conversation we actually had, he told me, he told me something that even now cracks me up. It was a funny story um, that happened to him. He was driving home and he was on the freeway and saw this car that looked like our mid-size SUV. Saw the person in the driver's side, saw the woman in the passenger side, and thought it was me and my wife and my family. And he was hard staring at the driver. And the driver saw that he was hard staring. So the driver looked at him and flipped him off. Now, if you know me, joking wise, I'll flip people off if I know you, right? Oh, you know what they're doing, da da da, right? I'll just randomly flip people off, just joking around. So what he did is he flipped the driver off. Um, and driver got so mad, and they were kind of like neck and neck, right? And he told me when he had called me, or when I had called him, because he had um, called me while I was at work, and I couldn't answer. And so I texted him when I got off of work, and he was like, "Hey, fool, talk to your wife. Your wife will tell you what happened." So then I called him, and he answered, and he was telling me the story. So let's pick up where I left off. Driver and him are neck and neck, and he's thinking it's me, and he was like, "Oh, I was thinking to myself, oh, the babies." He calls my kids babies, mind you. My daughters are 18 and 14, gonna be 15. But at the time, my daughters were 17 and 14, just turned 14. And he was like, "Oh, the babies are gonna be like, oh, why is Uncle mad? You know, what did what happened? You know, don't know why is he chasing us?" And all while he's telling me this, I'm rolling and I'm calling. I'm like, "Dude, you're stupid." I'm like, "Dude, you are so stupid." Um, and he's telling me this, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, like I'm coming up to my exit, and there's a truck beside me, and it's me in this other car, right? And where this exit is, if I flip really fast, I'm gonna lose him. So, and I'm like, "So you flipped, didn't you?" I'm like, "Dude, like you could have gotten in an accident." He was like, "No, dude," but like I was like freaked out because this guy was chasing me. So he was like, "What I did is I really did a really like fast turn because I knew he wasn't gonna be able to catch up. So I did this really fast turn and then I just booked it." And I was like, "You're stupid, man." I'm like, "You really think it would have been me?" He was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I thought it was you." And then he was like, "So after I called you," he was like, "Luckily I called your wife, and um, she had just got off of work, and I was telling her about it, and she was rolling, and she was like, 'You gotta tell Craig, you gotta tell Craig, you know, uh, he's gonna start rolling.'" So uh, that's what happened. And while he's telling me this, I'm like rolling. I'm like busting up because I'm like, "Dude, you're stupid." Um, and that was funny because that was kind of like one of the last conversations that we had that I think back and I just smile and I just crack up. Um, and sometimes I just want to pick up the phone and call him and say, "Remember that time you were stupid and you did this?" Um, but I also think I'm in denial too because out of all the people that I went to high school with, I'm the oldest, and my friend who had passed away was one of the youngest. So I was telling my wife, I'm like, "This isn't fair because it should have been me first." Him and I always talked about how our kids would be friends, and you know, he would talk to my grandkids and say, "Oh well, your grandfather did X, Y, and Z, and all this other stuff." And I would tell his grandkids, "Oh, your grandfather did X, Y, and Z, and you know, we were stupid when we were younger." All this other stuff. And I think to myself, that's not going to happen. My kids knew him. And I think to myself, my grandkids aren't going to know. Um, it's kind of tough. It's tough. He introduced me to my wife. Our anniversary is coming up next month. And He was my best man at the wedding, and knowing I'm not gonna get a stupid text, stupid comment on my social media when I post our anniversary and get that "you're welcome" like he would always do. That's what's gonna be tough, and it still is tough. Sometimes I think to myself, was I a good friend to him? Because I put our friendship through hell. I really did. He didn't have to stay being my friend. They typically say, when you get out of high school, the people you used to hang out with in high school tend to, you know, go opposite ways. Um, but our friendship never did that way. We never went our separate ways. I never went one way, he never went the other. He was by my side through some of the darkest days. Um, Sometimes I wish I could have been there. Maybe I could have done something different, could have done something different. Don't know what, but maybe if we would have went out, wouldn't have happened. And it's just hard. It took me about 2 months, I think, 2 or 3 months to play the last stupid Instagram reel message he sent me. Because if I played it, then it would be real. And it still doesn't feel real. It may take me a long time because, as they say, people grieve differently. And it just hurts. It really does. Sometimes I'll just catch myself just spacing out, thinking of all the stupid stuff we did. The drive to San Francisco that we did at night because he just wanted to go to the city. And we were just chilling there and just shooting the shit, just talking about life, looking at the Golden Gate, and he knew I hated going to San Francisco. By the way, um, hated it. The one-way streets, the hills. He knew all of that, but he still dragged me out. Um, and we would just go there to just talk, or when he used to do photography, he would ask me, "Hey, do you wanna come with me and help me out with this photo shoot?" You know, and I would go along because I had nothing better to do. So I'll go along, help out, and car rides. When he didn't have a car, I would just pick him up. He put some, oldies on, or some reggae, or some Disney. As you can see, I'm a Disney fan. Um, and we would just belt our little hearts out while we're driving. Um, and I catch myself doing that from time to time. Just kicking back while I'm driving, singing, you know. Grief is a bitch. It really is. It's difficult at times. Sometimes you don't catch yourself, and at times you can be fine, and then at other times you're spacing out, thinking of the good times, all the stupid stuff you did, and then you just start thinking. And it's funny because our friend, my friend that passed away, and myself have this group chat. So the night he passed away, like I mentioned earlier, my family and I were having dinner, and I was just on Instagram, just a quick scroll because I was going to send him a stupid meme. And I have celebrity crushes here and there, as everybody does. So I was on my Instagram, and I came across this post that one of the uh, twins, Tia and Tamara Mowry, um, did. I believe it's the one I think it's Tamara. No, it's Tia. It's one of them. One of them is single. Um, and this post wasn't provocative. It wasn't sexual, nothing like that. It was just a normal picture. I think she was wearing a nice dress or something, and wearing sunglasses or whatever. And I saw it. I'm like, damn, she pretty hot. So texted group chat, and I was like, you know, Tia's or one of the sisters, pretty damn hot. And typically I get a response, but that day it didn't. And I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, probably busy, they'll probably answer me in the morning. Come to find out, when I sent that text, that at that time, that's when he was pronounced that he had passed away. And I replay that in my head. And it's like, I'm never going to get a response that, oh, you're stupid. You know, she's all right. She's not, she's not my taste, but she all right. You know, um, never going to get that. On my birthday, I'm never going to get, damn, you old fool. And me replying, bro, you're only a few years younger than me. And then his reply saying, bro, but you're still old. Um, his mom and everybody says, oh no, you could still talk to him, even though he's gone. He'll still listen. And that is true. And I do try to, not try to, I do talk to him from time to time. I do send him memes through Instagram on messages, but it still hurts. I kind of equate it to, it was like a nut punch getting hit below the belt. Because, like I said earlier, I thought it would have been me first. Um, I try to look at life as you got to enjoy life because in an instant, you could be gone. I try to look at life, even when I'm at work, and where I work at, it's very busy. It's constant flow, you know, try to keep my mind busy at work. But when I have a dead time and I'm just sitting there, I tend to people watch. And I tend to just sit there and say, that person's mad. And I understand why they're mad, but they should love life because in an instant, it can be on. You know, this past weekend, I took a trip with my wife and my kids and my in laws. And I was having a conversation with someone, and I told them, I was like, like you seem pretty pissed off. Should be happy. Should love life. Enjoy life. Because in an instant, you can be gone. And, you know, they didn't really listen, which was okay. Not many people are going to listen. You know, not many people are going to heed those, you know, advice, heed that advice. And that's okay. Not mad at anybody, really not. Um, but I try to live my life that way. Try to tell my girls to live your life that way. Um, from time to time, they see me break down. And for anybody out there, and you're a man, it's okay to cry. You know, for time to time that I cry, time to time that I do cry, because it hurts a lot. It's very difficult to try to accept. You know, I tend to close out every episode on my audio podcast by saying, "Be kind to one another and just listen," and that's true because you don't know what someone's going through. You just don't. Um, my advice out there is, you know, try to mend fences. Even if someone doesn't want to mend fences, which that'll happen, try to mend fences. I try to live my life kind of like Jesus. When Jesus was on the cross, he cried out, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they've done." And I'm trying to live my life that way. And I've tried to just mend fences with family members. They've, some have, accepted, some haven't, and that's fine. You know, there is no hard feelings because what I'm going to do is I'm going to live my life with the best of my ability and to do what I can to make sure that I live life with no regrets. Um, I think eventually I will get to the fifth stage of grief, which is acceptance, but it may take me a long time. It may take me a long time. Because, like I said, right now I'm on the first three phases or four phases all together at once. And it's going to take me a long time. But, like I said, um, thank you guys for letting me be vulnerable on this first video version of the All Walks of Life with Mr. Aku podcast. And like I said, like I like to close everything out, be kind to one another and just listen. Mr. Aku out.